Now in this lesson we're going to talk about masking for effect. Now we all know that layer masks are good for extracting objects and hiding elements of a layer and creating interesting composites with smooth transitions. You can also use them to create very interesting effects by building layers on top of each other and revealing certain aspects through layer masks. So that's what we're going to do with this image here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new blank layer above that. I'm going to go over into my toolbar and we're going to grab the brush tool and we're going to go into the brush selector and let's choose a very hard edge brush here. But we're going to change a few things about it. Let's open up the brush options here. Let's drag that out. And what we're going to do is inside the shape dynamics, I'm going to turn the pen pressure off, but I am going to take the size jitter all the way up to 100. And you see it kind of gives me a little jagged line there. Let's enhance that a little bit more by going into the roundness jitter and taking that all the way up to 100. So you can see it gives me kind of a squiggly line there. So, I'm going to make that brush a little bit smaller. Let's just go in here. I'm going to left bracket and make it down to 15, and I think that will work. So what I'm going to do is I want to draw some straight lines in here that are going to isolate certain parts of the image. But I want to make sure I'm keeping in context things I want to frame in. Like I definitely want to keep the area of his eyes in one section. So I'm just going to keep that in mind when I'm drawing these boxes. So what I'm going to do is I want to draw straight lines. So I'm going to go off to the side of the document here. And I'm just going to click once. I'm going to hold down the Shift key and I'm going to come down here to where I want the line to end on the other side, right off the document here. I'm going to click again. And it gives me that straight line across there. Again, it is on its own layer. And that placement's going through the nose. I don't necessarily want it to do that. So let's just click again and hold down the Shift key. And that looks good. Now the reason why you don't want to hold down the Shift key first, because if I click off to the side here and then hold down the Shift key and then click, and drag, it's going to either let me go left to right or up and down. And that's not necessarily what I want to do. I want to get an angled like this. So I'm going to get another one. Let's go off to the side here. I'm going to click once. We don't see anything, obviously, because we're off the side of the document. Hold down the Shift key, go to the other side, click again, and there we get that stroke. Let's do some more. Let's go up here to the top, click, hold down the Shift key, click again, there we have that. Let's do the same thing. I'm going to click, hold down the Shift key, right down here, and we'll get a line there. So I'm just going to do those few lines, and I think that will work, and that'll give you the idea of what we're going for here. So those lines are on their own layer, as you can see. I'm going to make two duplicates of the original layer here. I'm going to highlight that background layer, press Command or Control J twice. So we have three versions of that image. Let's go ahead and turn off this layer's visibility for now. So with that top layer selected, we're going to apply three different filters. And honestly, if I were you, I would experiment. Just when you test this technique, try three random filters. It really doesn't matter. If you see that immediately it doesn't look good, then by all means try another one. But just try different ones. Don't necessarily go with the ones I pick here. The idea is to try different things and see what kind of different results you get. And then we're going to kind of combine them all together. So, on that first layer, I'm going to go into the filter menu, and I've already pre-selected the layers I'm going to use, sort of. Ones that I know I like. So I'm going to go into the artistic and choose poster edges. And you can see the type of result this gives me. It's actually a really cool filter. I use this quite a lot. And you can vary the edge thickness here and the edge intensity to get an interesting outline effect. You can change the posterization. I'm going to leave it down to 1 because I want it to have a really kind of posterized look there. So now it looks good. I'm going to click OK, and there it is on that layer. So let's turn off that layer for the moment. Turn on this top layer and select it. And we're going to go and do another effect. Let's do, well, let's do brush strokes. Now let's go into artistic and do rough pastels. Yeah, that's giving me a really cool effect there. We can increase the stroke length and the detail. Really go crazy with it. Like I said, experiment. Just try different things. So that looks good. I'm going to click OK, and that has applied that effect there. Now let's turn that one off, select the bottommost layer, and let's do something along the lines of, how about, well, let's just do artistic again. Let's do cutout. Yeah, that looks crazy. We'll bring the levels down, I'll do it right about like that. That looks crazy enough. Okay. So we've got each of the three duplicates or three versions of the image, we have a different filter applied to them. And I only want to reveal certain aspects of that filter based on this framing here. So I'm going to highlight that layer, grab my magic wand tool, And it doesn't matter the tolerance, but we can just set it to the default. But I'm going to click inside the empty area right here in the middle, and it should select that entire area inside there. With that selection active, let's go into that layer. We've got the poster, this first layer here. Click on that new layer mask icon. Notice what happens. It's hidden every aspect of that except the area around the eyes, which is the only part of the image I want to see with that effect. So let's do it again. Let's go in here and select, let's do select two areas this time. Let's do, we'll do this one. And I'm going to hold down the shift key to add to the selection. We'll do this top one here. And we'll do this one over here. These three that aren't touching. And I like where the way this filter is being revealed through there, so I'm going to leave that alone. And we're going to select that bottommost layer, and let's double click it to unlock it. And let's apply the layer mask to that one. And it's only revealing those parts, so let's turn this one back on. So now look, we're getting a different effect through all of these filters. But the one in the middle is getting the most emphasis and the most sharpness because that's where the eyes are, and that's giving me the detail I want. And again, try different filters, do all the different types of things. But I'm going to do one more thing here. I'm going to go back to that layer that's got all these lines on it. And we're going to grab that magic wand tool. I'm going to select some more areas. I'm going to click in here and select the top area. I'm going to hold down my shift key and add these areas. And we'll add these areas, leaving these middle areas alone. And with that topmost layer selected, we're going to go in here and grab the hue saturation. And I'm going to click colorize, and let's give this kind of a yellowish tint to it. And that gives me a pretty interesting effect. And it is a layer style, so I can turn it on or off, and it's masking those areas that I selected. So you can see how layer masks can be very helpful in revealing different effects on different layers. And it will build up to reveal an entire effect altogether. So it gives me a very interesting result there. So it's not just masking. You can do all kinds of experimental things with layer masks. You can even apply filters to layer masks. It doesn't even matter. Like this layer mask right here, let's say I wanted to have it kind of spill over. Well, I'll just go over here and run a motion blur on that layer mask. Increase that distance there. And you see it kind of spilling over there? Just a very subtle, but I can run the effect on there and get a very interesting result altogether. So, experiment, like I said, go in there and just try random filters and do different things with this technique and try different effects with it. You can certainly put more lines in here and create much more spaces. That would be tedious work. By all means, try it and see what kind of cool and interesting things you come up with.